Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show. I, of course, am Mr. Warren Hayes, and this is my podcast where we are going to be talking about professional wrestling for a while now here on youtube.com/Mr. Warren Hayes or on your favorite podcast application. Thank you all for joining me. It's a great Wednesday that's about to shape up, and it's great for me. I hope it's going to be great for you as well. It'll be extra great if you leave a like here on YouTube. If you were watching this on YouTube, on youtube.com/Mr. Warren Hayes, of course, or a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or a 5-star rating on Spotify. All of that stuff would be pretty grand. That would be pretty awesome if you wanted to do that. Thank you in advance for it, but we've got some stuff to go through. Look, tonight we are reviewing the WWE Royal Rumble 2025. Lots of stuff happened, lots of controversy, but or at least one thing that's been kind of controversial. But we're going to cover the whole thing, which is what we're going to do in a few minutes. We're also going to give an update on the Janel Grant lawsuit. There's a lot of lawsuits, in fact, regarding WWE. That have some updated news. So let's just go ahead, get right to it. Thank you very much, everyone, for being here. We're going to read through this article that was published on Post Wrestling, written by Brandon Thurston, regarding the amended complaint that Janel Grant filed last Friday, adding new details to her allegations against Vince McMahon, John Laurinaitis, and WWE. The updated lawsuit submitted in U.S. District Court in Connecticut comes just over 1 year after she was initially sued, with the new filing expanding to 101 pages from 67. Grant, a former WWE employee, continues to allege that McMahon sexually assaulted and trafficked her before she signed a non-disclosure agreement with him in 2022. Laurinaitis participated in the abuse, she says. Grant also asserts that WWE was negligent in allowing McMahon's alleged misconduct, to occur. McMahon has repeatedly denied any allegations against him related to the case. Laurinaitis has also denied the allegations against him after initially claiming he was a victim of McMahon as well. One of the most striking new claims in the amended complaint is Grant's allegation that McMahon instructed her to create pornographic content for Michael Hayes, a longtime WWE creative executive who remains with the company. In or about September 2020, Grant's attorneys wrote, McMahon instructed Ms. Grant to create customized pornographic content for producer Michael Hayes and his crew. The complaint includes screenshots of text messages that Grant appears to have sent McMahon. In one, Grant's body is obscured by text reading, "Dear Vince's crew, hope you're enjoying these pics, XOXO." Another image, purportedly of Grant, includes text reading, quote, "Hey Michael, Vince's stories are true and I love to live up to the hype, XOXO," unquote. Outside of this, Michael Hayes is not mentioned anywhere else in the lawsuit. Grant also expands on previous allegations that McMahon shared explicit images of her without her consent. The new filing claims McMahon once video called Laurinaitis and recorded Grant while she was nude. Laurinaitis, she alleges, then sent sexually explicit videos to McMahon, which he in turn shared with Grant. It's so fucking crazy and wild and disturbing and disgusting. Anyway, let's continue. The lawsuit maintains many of the allegations from the original complaint, including Grant's claim that McMahon and Laurinaitis sexually assaulted her in Laurinaitis' office at WWE headquarters, despite her repeated pleas for them to stop. The complaint alleges multiple instances of sexual assault by McMahon. Added to Grant's complaint is the detail that Laurinaitis' office shared a wall with Paul Levesque's office. The complaint, as it did originally, alleges that Laurinaitis often called Grant into his office and instructed her to perform oral sex on him. Here's a quote from Grant's attorney, Ann Callis, which she said in a statement. Quote, Miss Grant's amended complaint reveals new details that further demonstrate the sexual abuse she suffered at the hands of Vince McMahon and John Laurinaitis, and pulls back the curtain on the dangerous workplace culture McMahon created at WWE. Ms. Grant looks forward to holding her abusers accountable in a court of law. McMahon's attorney Jessica Rosenberg dismissed the amended complaint in a statement to Post Wrestling. Here is the statement. As expected, the proposed amendment complaint is nothing more than the latest publicity stunt in an ongoing smear campaign. It is filled with desperate falsehoods from a team that continues to disregard the law and the truth. Grant's lawsuit seeks to establish that McMahon sex trafficked her, asserting that he pressured her to send Laurinaitis explicit images and reminded her to do so repeatedly. The complaint also states that McMahon instructed Grant to, quote-unquote, show off for construction workers, though she says she avoided an in-person encounter due to COVID-19 concerns. Dr. Carlin Coker, previously referred to in the lawsuit as the quote-unquote celebrity doctor, is now identified by name along with his clinic, Peak Wellness. Grant alleges that McMahon directed her to undergo treatments at Coker's clinic, where she was prescribed substances without knowing what they were. She petitioned Coker in Connecticut State Court last summer for evidence, including her medical records, and reserves the right to add him and Peak Wellness as defendants. The amended complaint also names WWE executives who were previously identified under pseudonyms. We had all figured these out, by the way. We had all figured out who they were, if my memory serves me right, but they were, and I think Ann Callis had even confirmed the names. So we had all, I think it had all been worked out, but now in the amended complaint, all the anonymity has sort of been lifted in this regard for the executives. WWE President Nick Khan and executives Brad Blum and Brian Nurse are now referenced by name, confirming prior reporting. Grant's attorney previously confirmed, along with the other three anonymized executives, that former WWE chairwoman Stephanie McMahon is WWE Corporate Officer number 3. However, in the updated complaint, her name has been removed and references to her public statements in the original filing have been replaced with the pseudonym. None of the 4 officers are accused of abuse, but Grant claims they enabled McMahon's misconduct. We contacted Grant's representatives to ask why Stephanie McMahon's name was treated differently, and we'll update this report if we learn more. That is very curious. A newly added paragraph alleges that McMahon, quote, continued to remind Ms. Grant of his control, unquote, and that she, quote, felt watched and intimidated by McMahon and his executive enforcers even while she was outside of the WWE office, unquote. Grant calls WWE's board of directors' internal investigation into allegations against McMahon a sham. She has added to her claims that she was preparing with an attorney to be interviewed by the board's investigators, but that she was never interviewed. A year ago, when Grant's lawsuit was filed, Jeffrey Speed, who was the WWE board member in charge of the investigation, told the New York Times, quote, I remain confident in our investigation, which included outreach to Ms. Grant, and engagement with her lawyer. The complaint expands on a previously described incident in which McMahon allegedly pressured Grant to have a sexual encounter in his office at WWE headquarters. Grant says she suffered a panic attack at the suggestion and pleaded with McMahon to take her home. According to the lawsuit, McMahon insisted they have sex either in his office or in his parked car. She alleges that she ultimately agreed to go inside the building where the encounter took place. In the days that followed, Grant says McMahon left her a voicemail calling it, quote, the greatest thing that probably ever happened in this building, unquote. According to screenshots included in the lawsuit, he later texted her, quote, I can hardly think about anything except yesterday, unquote, along with photos of his office. The amended complaint also explicitly identifies Brock Lesnar as the previously anonymized WWE superstar. Grant claims that McMahon attempted to arrange a sexual encounter between her and Lesnar as part of Lesnar's contract negotiations. That And that's vile. That's just vile. That is absolutely vile. And I read I went through the amended the amended document, and I just you see the text messages are there, and it's just insane. Like it's just so vile and foul. According to the complaint, McMahon texted Grant, "You have to take a flight to Greenville, South Carolina this Monday, even if it's just to see Brock." Rich Herring, a longtime WWE employee who received the company's Warrior Award in 2021, is also identified in the complaint as the previously referred to as WWE employee number 1. Herring, who retired in recent years, is not accused of abuse, but is characterized as a feared veteran employee at WWE and very loyal to the company. Grant's attorneys argued that McMahon's actions amounted to trafficking, alleging that he, quote, forced her to exchange sex for commercial value and employment, unquote, and that, quote, these acts would grow more extreme and outrageous over time, unquote. In another new claim, yes, it keeps going. In another new claim, Grant alleges that McMahon viewed nude photos of Grant while being filmed for the Netflix documentary that was later released last year under the title Mr. McMahon. The updated complaint shows a still from the documentary of McMahon in a conference room compared to screenshots of Grant's text message interactions with McMahon, in which he sent her a photo of what appears to be the same conference room. The complaint includes what Grant says is a text message from McMahon in which he tells her, "Unfortunately, you appear to have my company over a barrel." Granted, McMahon signed a non-disclosure agreement in January 2022, which coincided with her departure from WWE and included a $3 million payout from McMahon. Grant alleges that the attorney who represented her in the NDA negotiations was recommended by Coker and that McMahon was ultimately paying for the attorney's services. In January 2022, McMahon and Grant signed an NDA that coincided with her departure from the company. Under the NDA, McMahon agreed to pay her $3 million. Grant says the attorney she retained, recommended to her by Coker, by the way, was uneasy about the speed of the negotiations, which took just 8 days. She also claims McMahon ultimately paid for her legal representation. As an important meeting with WWE's board approached, McMahon pressed Grant to sign the NDA, she says, because he needed to be able to tell the board there was no pending litigation, something he could not truthfully do if the deal wasn't completed. The complaint now includes a purported transcript of a voicemail McMahon left for Grant. So Jerry McDevitt is in charge of the fucking audit of the books, kind of like thing. McMahon is quoted as saying in a January 27, 2022 voice memo. He's got to tell the audit committee there's no lawsuits, there's no pending this, there's no that kind of like thing. And he won't do and can't do it legally unless I get this thing signed. So we need to work on this really fucking fast. Otherwise, I'm double fucked. That's an important part of the new stuff that was sent in, because one of the things that Grant's team wants to, the thing that they want to do with the amended complaint, and this I think is important to point out as we're talking about the NDA here, is to show the judge that despite the claims that, or at least the part of the NDA that said that if there was any situation that occurred that it would have to go to arbitration, they want to show that because of how the NDAs were put together and the amount of pressure she was under previously for being abused, from being trafficked, allegedly, of course, and because Vince was putting pressure on her to sign the document, the NDA is not valid because on top of that, the lawyer that she was using was referred to by Dr. Coker, who was already a guy working with Vince. So there's this movement here that the Grant team wants to try and push forward, that the NDA just won't stand, so that they can reject going to arbitration. They want the judge to reject going to arbitration and immediately send it to court. That's what they want to do here. According to Grant, Jerry McDevitt, a close legal advisor to McMahon for decades, was aware of the NDA discussions as part of his representation. The lawsuit claims McMahon feared that without the NDA in place, McDevitt could not tell the board there was no pending litigation, raising the risk that board members would discover McMahon's relationship with Grant, jeopardizing both his marriage and his standing in the company. It's funny that we're talking about the marriage with Linda. I would assume Linda would have known it by now, and that Linda would have just... I think Linda has been in this marriage of convenience for a while. They're not together anymore, but I think it's been a marriage of convenience for a while. A key legal question now is whether the case will remain in public court or will be moved to private arbitration. The NDA includes a clause requiring disputes to be settled through arbitration, but such clauses can be ruled unenforceable if a party is found to have agreed under duress, fraud, or other extraordinary circumstances. There you go. That's what I was saying. Brandon put it much more succinctly and eloquently than I did, but nonetheless, that was the point that I was making. Grant's team wants the judge to rule that the NDA is unenforceable, and it's going to go to court, not arbitration. Grant argues she was under duress, controlled by McMahon, and desperate to escape her alleged abuser. Her attorneys have also pointed to WWE's public filings, which, after the broader scandal over McMahon's secret no agreement surfaced, stated that the company had no prior knowledge of the NDA with Grant. McMahon signed the NDA on behalf of both himself and WWE, where he was the CEO and chairman at the time. That assertion, Grant argues, raises questions about whether WWE can enforce the arbitration clause given its claims of ignorance, which is also a very good point. Grant's account also includes an alleged final sexual assault after the NDA was signed on January 28, 2022, in what she describes as their last in-person meeting. She says McMahon forced her to perform oral sex. Judge Sarah F. Russell will rule on whether to allow Grant's amended complaint, which is only proposed at this stage, to formally become a part of the case. After that is decided, the defendants are expected to resubmit their motions to transfer the case to arbitration, which will likely be the next major decision. So that's where we're at right now. This is a pretty substantial update, as you can see. One thing that Brandon didn't necessarily bring up in the article here, because and I'm not blaming him, right? I'm not saying, oh, did some bad work here. There's just so much in here, right? When it was during the he did reference it, but he didn't go a little deeper into it. It's the part where it's the part when they were talking about John Laurinaitis having an office right next to Janel Grant. This happened because there was some construction that happened there was some renovation work, basically, that was done in the C-suite of WWE headquarters, and there's actually blueprints of the designs that were added to the complaint, and the designs were both approved. Were approved by both Nick Khan and I think it was Bloom, I think, and so so basically the design included an office next to John Laurinaitis' office with a door that connected between the two, between Laurinaitis and Janel Grant's new office. And what that implies, I guess, what it's eliciting as far as, questions go, is whether or not Nick Khan was truly aware of what was going on or not. there's that little bit of information where a lot of people are kind of like incredulous at the idea of Nick Khan actually knowing anything, where the sentiment that he's like, that it's like, well, why would he know? But you had the impression that he knew who she was. So he has to know to a degree what was going on. Remember when she first made her deposition, or when she first filed for the lawsuit last year, she mentioned running into Nick Khan and introducing herself to him, and him saying, "Oh, I know who you are." So there's this situation, there's this questioning, this question that still exists in the company, where it's like, well, how much did Nick Khan really know? He always seems to avoid being really involved in this, and I don't expect him to be truly involved. But he, again, one of the sticking points that Grant's team focuses on is that WWE did nothing to curb McMahon's behavior or protect her. It's almost as if everyone was in on it, and we're either turning a blind eye, or we're just like knowing of what was going on and just didn't care. Or in some cases, like John Laurinaitis, were directly involved in this. Of course, all alleged in the filing, but this picture really is coming together a lot more, and the new things that we're learning, the stuff about Brock, and the additional information about Brock, about she being used as a bargaining tool for renegotiations, which is just completely baffling. Vince forcing her to create pornographic content for Michael Hayes and construction workers. It's like, this is all nuts. Like, this is all legitimately insane. It's legitimately insane stuff. It's disgusting. It's foul. You can't feel anything but disgust in this type of situation, right? It's just awful stuff. And this is a situation that was created by Vince, and had been created by Vince for years. We've heard stories about Vince and WWE, and what kind of frat house he used to run. Well, clearly he ran that kind of environment till the very end. It was still, a man who has literally been untouched and untouchable throughout his entire career. Basically does whatever he wants. Yet he skirted the justice system so many times. He was pursued by the federal government, and they weren't able to nail him. This is a guy who feels that he can get away with anything. And this culture that he created in the company is still there. The people that it still exists, or at least let me rephrase that. We assume that it still exists because whenever Triple H was Paul Levesque, when he was challenged about this last year at the Royal Rumble, when the allegations first came out in 2024, he was asked, well, I don't remember if this was exactly at the Royal Rumble or another presser. It doesn't really matter, but he was pressed at one point. He was asked at one point, well, what is WWE doing to make their staff feel safe? And we're doing everything we can, but we never know. We've never heard what they are doing, right? We never heard what they are doing to make the environment safer for their staff. We're doing everything we can. What does that mean? Like, even to this day, and no one follows up on it. No one has ever asked Paul Levesque moving forward, well, what have you been doing, right? What policies have you been putting in place? What actions could you have taken? You know what some actions that they could have taken? And I've been saying this for the better part of a year. Actions that they could have taken is, as the boss, Nick Khan, he could have sat everyone down and just like, I'm getting rid of everyone who has their fingerprints on this Vince shit. Everyone. We're starting We're starting from scratch. And yes, it's performative to a degree, but also this is the only way, more importantly even, it's the only way to truly start fresh. If you get rid of all the, I'm sorry for the tired expression, but you get rid of all bad apples, then you can start building anew. Then you start getting rid of some of the, you get rid of some of that top-down nonsense that trickles down to everything else. New management comes in, TKO comes in, new management. Ari Emanuel makes a call, tells Nick, get rid of all these sons of bitches. Get rid of Michael Hayes, get rid of Bloom, get rid of everyone, right? But they didn't do that. They didn't do that. And in fact, here's the thing. In fact, it's not just that they got rid of, they didn't get rid of all the bad apples, but they've been hiring other people's bad apples and bringing them into the company, right? Lee Fitting, right? Lee Fitting, one of Nick Khan's boys, back when Nick Khan was working for CAA. Wait, wasn't it for CAA when he was an agent, and at the very least? 5 months after Lee Fitting gets fired by ESPN, this was all broken by the story broke on the, I think it was the Atlantic, right? Lee Fitting had some misconduct allegations happening within ESPN. ESPN cans his ass 5 months later. He's got himself an executive producer job at WWE. Jimmy Horowitz, right? Gets fired in 2017 from Fox because of sexual indiscretions. Guess who? Oh, it was the Athletic. Okay. Yeah. Jimmy Horowitz. He loses his job at Fox. A couple of years later, pops up in WWE. Then they get rid of him last year because of redundancy in the TKO merger. But still, are you picking up what I'm laying down? Is that this company is not going to change because it's still going to be the same thing over and over again. And then you get the Royal Rumble happening, and then they're like, hey, look, Nikki Bella is back, and she said some not nice things over the past few years about how WWE conducted themselves, right? And, she's distancing herself from her, from her father-in-law, right? Laurinaitis is her father-in-law. She's distancing herself and, she's back, everything has to be okay, right? Look, Charlotte Flair came back. Look, Alexa Bliss came back. All these ladies, they must all feel safe here. If they didn't feel safe, where would they go? They wouldn't come back. They'd go elsewhere, right? Right? They had an opportunity, WWE did, to really flip, to really have a proper change when the lawsuit first dropped last year, right? What did we get instead? We got Triple H, who said that he didn't read the lawsuit. I wonder if he read the amendments. The amendments are really easy to find too. Like, all he has to do is read the red underscoring. It's really easy now. Oh, but he doesn't see color either. Shoot. He's probably not going to read it again. But that's what we got. We got a guy saying, oh, I didn't read it. Oh, we're doing everything we can to make our employees feel safe. And Vince may be gone. But Michael Hayes is still under the employ there. Triple H is still working there. Stephanie McMahon is back to doing more stuff. She's gonna have a TV show now. She's gonna go interview people, right? So she's back. She's still hanging around. And Nick Khan's buddies, his weirdos. But what are we gonna Are we really surprised? The ownership is TKO that has been dealing with Dana White for years now and don't give a shit. Dana White slapped his wife, in public, on camera, slapped her across the face and got away with it, and so many other things. Look at the absolute vile shit that one of their, I don't even know who it is. I don't remember his name, but the absolute vile bullshit that one of their fighters said last week or a couple of days ago, right? Not going to get punished. This stuff gets rewarded now. Stuff is like, no, we're continuing. Everything's fine now. There is no sign that this company has any interest in improving and moving away. For them, the most important thing, for them, the most significant way to show that they have split from Vince is to have Triple H come out at the start of every show to remind us every time that it is his show, it's no longer Vince, that the bad man is gone. And as long as that window dressing holds up, they'll be able to get away with anything. And that is one of the greatest lessons that Vince McMahon has taught Triple H, because that is absolutely a Vince McMahon move. Make sure that everything is smiles and that everything is good on the public front, in the front-facing aspect. Everything else, irrelevant, doesn't matter. I'm still holding hope that Janel and her team are going to hang true here and take Vince McMahon to court. Because every time Janel and her team have come with a request, have come with a change or something, they have won every single time. They've been granted the access to the access to Cokers, to Peak Wellness, and so on and so forth. Every time that they've had a request, it's been granted. It's going to be granted here. I mean, the trend would say yes. But I'm still hoping it goes to court. I'm hoping it goes to court. Because at this stage right now, even though Vince's lawyer keeps saying, falsehoods, it's a publicity stunt, all this stuff, which they've been saying over and over again, they have been unable to counter with anything that truly paints Janel Grant in a poor light. They did it once, you remember? And I'm trying to pull it off of the top of my head here. But they ended up, like at some point, they shared some emails or some texts. I think it was some texts, right? They added some text to the filing, some text messages, which were then released. And when we all read them, we were like, well, this is actually corroborating what Janel is saying. Like, if this was supposed to be some kind of smoking gun that Janel Grant was just a gold digger or, someone looking for a quick payday or whatever, it didn't work. They have, like at this point, I sincerely believe that McMahon's side have nothing. They've got nothing. And they want to take this to arbitration because they know they got nothing. And WWE does not want to be a part of this. So I'm convinced there's nothing. I hope this goes to court. It probably won't. I kind of feel this would be a slam dunk. This, of course, is all separate from, the Department of Justice investigating Vince McMahon, which, a lot of us are assuming right now, considering the state the U.S. is in right now, it's probably going to end up not going anywhere. So that's why, like, I'm hoping this, that all of this blows up into court, and Vince McMahon's aura gets torn down, because that's probably the thing that would hurt him the most. He can pay $3 million like you and I pay $30. Like, it won't be a big deal for him, right? But being exposed in the public eye, his well manicured image being torn to shreds, we'll see. How about a little more good news? How about some good news? There was some developments here regarding the Ring Boy lawsuit. We haven't talked about this one for a while because there hasn't been any movement really, but we got some updates here that are legitimately good, and I'm going to share with you here. Once again, a great article from Post Wrestling. John Pollock wrote this. Anything having to do with these two stories right now, you got to follow Post Wrestling. John and Brandon are doing fantastic work, actually doing reporter stuff, keeping up with all of this. So the article is entitled, additional plaintiffs to join Ring Boy lawsuit against WWE Vince and Linda McMahon. Now, you will remember a few months ago, I think it was in December, the lawsuit had been put on hold because the Maryland Supreme Court was looking to validate the constitutionality of the Child Victims Act, which is the law upon which this suit would be enforceable. And everyone was kind of expecting that it was going to be probably, it'd take the year, maybe into the summer, so on and so forth. But no, we got some movement. We got some things going on here early February. The decision to uphold the Child Victims Act in Maryland will allow the Ring Boy lawsuit to proceed after a temporary pause to await Monday's ruling. The Maryland Supreme Court voted 4-3 in favor of preserving the act, which eliminates time limits for victims of sexual abuse to file lawsuits. The Child Victims Act allowed for the 5 anonymous ex-Ring Boys to file their lawsuit last October in Baltimore County against Vince and Linda McMahon and WWE for negligence related to alleged sexual abuse. The former Ring Boys allege sexual abuse by former ring announcer and ring crew chief Mel Phillips, who died in 2012. DiCillo Levitt, the law firm representing the ex-Ring Boys, announced the continuation of the lawsuit while including new information that additional survivors have joined the suit. Here's the quote from the law firm. The underage Ring Boys were groomed, exploited, and sexually abused by Phillips, who targeted children from broken homes. His sexual assaults occurred not only at the wrestling venues, but also in hotel rooms and other locations where Phillips would shuttle the boys in plain sight. Defendants were aware of the systemic and pervasive abuse, but did not prevent or stop it. The FBI previously identified at least 10 Ring Boys abused by Phillips, but there are likely countless others who have suffered in silence for decades. Just as a quick note here, that's something that a lot of us have been thinking about, where Mel Phillips never went to jail. He never did any time for any transgressions that he did, and he was so active in this during his time with WWE. When they finally got rid of him and he went off and did whatever the fuck else, wherever he ended up, one could only assume that he continued his child enjoyment somewhere else with other tactics and other children. So, ultimately we're fixated on the Ring Boys here, but God knows how many others Mel Phillips might have affected in this way. Anyway, let's continue. Since the lawsuit was filed in October, additional survivors have come forward to seek justice and accountability for what happened to them. Monday's decision allows the case to proceed. This is good news. This is very, very good news. Post Wrestling has inquired regarding the number of additional plaintiffs being added to the case and will update if we can confirm the number of claimants. An important element of this case is Linda McMahon being named as a defendant as she approaches her confirmation in front of the U.S. Senate to become Secretary of Education under President Donald Trump. Last fall, McMahon's attorney, Laura Brevity, called the Ring Boy lawsuit baseless and was filled with scurrilous lies, exaggerations, and misrepresentations. In a press release from DiCillo Levitt, plaintiff's lawyer Greg Gutzler, said, the Maryland Supreme Court's decision upholding the Maryland Child Victims Act, effectively eliminating any statute of limitation on sex abuse lawsuits, is the right one, and we hope other states will follow Maryland's lead. Survivors of sexual assault, especially children, often do not come forward for years or even decades after the abuse occurred. This delayed disclosure happens for numerous reasons: shame, fear, or manipulation, and it has too often prevented survivors from ever seeking justice and getting accountability. It also has allowed perpetrators to continue hurting countless innocent people, is what we kind of all assume Mel Phillips was up to all these years. My clients' lives were destroyed by the defendants who allowed and enabled the open, rampant sexual abuse to occur for years. The abuse inflicted on my clients was inexcusable. They were mere children and had the right to expect that WWE executives would take action to protect them from the predators working within the WWE. We will bring light to their truth and fight for accountability and justice. The lawsuit had been paused in December, pending a ruling on the constitutionality of the Child Victims Act. So that's some good news. That's good news. That this will be able to move forward. I don't know how much people are gonna. I don't know how much Linda is gonna suffer throughout all of this, but look, this has been well documented. We've also talked about this before, so we don't have to relitigate everything. But to me, just the fact that there are more ring boys coming forward, that's also very significant and is continuing to add credence to this lawsuit. It's not just like one or two people. There's a lot of folks. So look, I sincerely believe that this is one that that is going to be settled out of court. I don't think anything is really going to go to the light of day here. But these 5+ ring boys, that they deserve any kind of peace and restitution to just be able to move on. They sincerely deserve it. However this is handled, they really deserve some kind of peace and to move on. So yeah, again, kind of ties into what we were just talking about. You can always make the argument, oh, Mel Phillips is dead, hasn't worked for us for years. Oh, Vince is gone, oh, Linda's gone. But shadow looms large. And it is now time to review WWE Royal Rumble 2025. And full disclosure before we get into things, I woke up this morning. I'm recording this on February 2nd. And I woke up this morning, and wiped my eyes and all that stuff. And I was like, oh, wait a second. I'm not feeling too good. Oh no, I have a cold. So I am going to conduct this review firmly under the weather. I'm going to do my best to push through it. I took I took decongestants. I stuffed as much Salinex I could up my nostrils without compromising the structural integrity of said nostrils. I am going to do my best to push through this and give you the review you deserve with all of my thoughts on the Royal Rumble 2025. So basically, if I seem a little off here, or if my voice is already, I feel my voice is already like completely out of whack. Sincere apologies, but I think I think I'm able to do this, and we'll get through it together as a team. Whatever. Indianapolis, Indiana was the city that bid lots of money to get the Royal Rumble in their location with and this was held at the Lucas Oil Stadium. 67,590 tickets, according to WrestleTix, were distributed for this event. I think WWE said, I think WWE said something to the effect that it was 64,000 tickets, and then Paul Levesque during the post media assembly said it was like over 70,000. Right? I'm like, okay. It's just one of these things. These numbers will probably settle over the next couple of days. WrestleTix isn't usually off by much. It's typically pretty accurate. So 67,590 is the official Warren Hayes endorsed number. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens moving forward. This show, 4 matches, right? Of course, there were the 2-hour-long Royal Rumble. Started at 6 p.m. Eastern. They wanted to make sure everyone would be able to get all their stuff in, and then everyone would be able to go home and put the kids to bed and whatnot. This show, despite despite the hype around the Royal Rumble every year, despite the shorter card, I didn't think this was a very good show. I thought the Royal Rumble matches were okay. So the Royal Rumble matches are pretty much the same standard fare that we've been having for the past few years, where it's essentially just having people coming in and do they get their little shine, their little spot when they hit the ring. You know, they come in, they do some cool moves, and then they disappear off camera for the longest while. Like, it's very rare that you'll have someone come in, do their thing, and then actually be involved in the outcome of the Royal Rumble, or not necessarily just the outcome, but be a player throughout, right? Because they'll be in a corner, struggling with someone to put them over, or just lying down on the mat. Like, there's really no substance to these things. And it's kind of a shame, and it's kind of what we've been getting, and that's why I think a lot of WWE fans will get really upset if there's not a lot of surprises, where there if you're sticking to people and there's not anything revelatory happening in the ring. I think a lot of or happening as far as entrances go, surprises is what I'm trying to say. I think that that's a symptom of the matches themselves not really having anything to captivate your attention with. Now it's like, well, we need surprises, we need shocking people coming in, the unexpected, and when WWE fails to deliver on that, that's when I think people get a little more upset at it. And I don't think WWE has been particularly interesting with the surprises this year. The surprises, they're all in quotation marks. Like, the surprises we got this year in both the men's and the women's Rumble matches were essentially things we were expecting, right? Joe Hendry, well, he was a shoo-in, right? Jordan Grace, well, she had been spending the last 3 days, trying to throw people off the scent. Oh, no, I'm not going to be there, when we all expected her to show up. Was the I Show Speed moment a little surprising? Like, we knew he was going to be there. They said, oh, we're offering him stream backstage, whatever. What, was his inclusion into the match itself surprising? Sure. Was it the kind of surprise that will make you go, hell yeah, WWE keeping you on your toes always? No, well, not for me. I don't know. Like, I know who I Show Speed is, but it doesn't get me excited. I had been sitting around saying, well, you want to bet Miro is going to make it. Now, if Miro showed up, that would have been a bona fide surprise. There was actually one bona fide surprise in the Royal Rumble this year, and that was Alexa Bliss. That's the only person that really qualified as a surprise, right? That's the only person who really did, like, shock and stun everyone who was watching, either at home or on location. And outside of that, there really wasn't anything special about it. And when the matches now are designed to just highlight people coming in and then not doing anything for the rest of the Rumble, well, these Royal Rumbles sort of start feeling a little contrived. They don't feel interesting. When was the last? I was trying to think back of the last really interesting Royal Rumble we had, and I think it's the one where I think Brock came in at number 1, right? Wasn't it that there was one that Brock came in at number 1, and he just was eliminating people. Everyone would come in, he'd just throw them out, and in some circumstances, he'd have to wait the clock down because he tossed them out too fast, right? That was interesting, and you had a really good story, because then the story becomes, well, who's going to get rid of Brock, right? How is this Royal Rumble not even just like get rid of him? It's like, who's going to to be able to stay in the ring despite Brock, despite Brock being there. Who's going to be able to hang out, to hang with Brock is what I'm trying to say, and make it further, right? Like that was the year that Keith Lee came in and Brock was like, oh, that's a big boy. That was the one, right? It was the 2021. It was 2020. Look, I think that's the last time we really got an interesting one. That was the last time we really got one that was fun. But look, outside of the Royal Rumble matches, which, are not completely devoid of interest, right? On the men's side, I thought the men's Royal Rumble was slightly better than the women's, but we're not miles apart here. We're just like, a couple of doors down from each other. It's just, I think there were more interesting things happening in the men's. There were more stars, it is what it is. But I think I think then what happens is that these matches now sort of create an environment where the Royal Rumble pay-per-view is just like, it's a lot of hype and it doesn't live up to the hype. And then you get other matches, you get an undercard or that happens, right? Or a mid-card or whatever, there's the non-Rumble matches that happen on the show. And you're like, okay, if anything, these matches are going to be good. And then they turn out to be disappointments. So, but again, in my case, because, I didn't think Cody and Kevin Owens was all that good. I actually kind of thought it was a little boring. And DIY versus Motor City Machine Guns was that is the very definition of a disappointment. But we'll get to that. Ultimately, not a fantastic Royal Rumble, not even close to being a good Royal Rumble. I thought this was a kind of a bad one, a very boring one at the very least. If not bad, just dull, really dull. And, Cage Match has it right now as I'm recording this on this Sunday. They have it at 5.34. I had checked a little earlier today and it was like in the fours, in the mid fours. So people are coming in to rate it, give it a little more oomph. But sometimes I sort of wonder, with these pay-per-views that just end up being very basic, very mid pay-per-views, at some point the WWE consumer base is going to figure out that what they're watching isn't all that great, and they're going to turn on Triple H. They have to at some point, don't they? At some point we're going to have to start pointing fingers if the product starts getting boring, right? But then again, it's probably going to take a while. Or, okay, it's going to need one of two things. Either something is going to happen that is absolutely going to turn the fans against the company. I think they came close last year when WWE started to ignore Cody finishing the story. I think we came that was very, very close to a revolt, I'd say. Or it'll be a long-term game where WWE over a long amount of time will just make more and more unpopular decisions, and the fans will eventually just decide to let it be, kind of thing, right? Or, it just might cycle down, just like any other period in pro wrestling. Maybe at some point it'll just like, okay, well, we're not as hot as we once were, and that's just the way it's going to go, right? Anyway, a few more high-level thoughts here. There were a lot of celebrities again that were present for this show, that were put on camera. Stephen Amell was there. El Hijo de Ice Cube was there. And they had, but the one that really did surprise me, the one that sort of got me excited, It was John Cougar Mellencamp. I think it's just John Mellencamp, right? He dumped the Cougar aside a while back, I believe. But John Mellencamp was there, which really came out of left field. And I'm like, holy shit, really? And boy, oh boy, did he not want to do the on-screen thing. He could not give a fuck about being on screen, about being at a WWE event. I don't know. Was he there because he brought his kid? Like I'm going to say his kids, but he's got to be like, his kid's got to be grown up now, right? Maybe his kids brought him. Like, how old is John Mellencamp? He's 73 years old. So it might be his grandkids. Does he have children? It does. Look, honestly, like the only point I'm making, I don't want to go too deep into this. It's not the point. The point that I'm making is that he didn't even look like he wanted to be there. It was like, John, blink twice if you're in trouble. Like at some point he's just sitting there, and he's got towards the end, he's putting a toothpick in his mouth. I also laughed when the Godfather showed up when they put him on screen, Kama Mustafa. When they put Kama Mustafa on screen. And then I don't remember which commentator it was, but it's like, it's time to get on the train. It's like, you're missing a very important word here. There's a very important word that you forgot to add to that sums up the act here. Rob Van Dam was there as well with what's her name? What's his girlfriend's name? Rob Van Dam and why am I drawing a blank? Katie Forbes, looking both looking like they're having the time of their life, but everywhere they go, those two seem to be having the time of their lives. So, good for them. I don't remember who else was there. Mickie James, she was there, right? Mickie James was there. Ron Simmons was there. I'm just trying to rattle them off the top of my head. I'm sure I'm forgetting people. But yeah, everyone wants to get in on these WWE shows. I'm like, sure. Okay. How many times is Stephen Amell going to be on WWE TV? Like, I know that he's got a show coming up on Netflix, so it's brand synergy. But we as wrestling fans know that the connective tissue between pro wrestling and Stephen Amell is deeper than just, he's got a show on Netflix. Cody works for the company now, so that probably helps strengthen that bond. Anyway, can I ask you all a question? Didn't you all think it was kind of weird that at some point we're watching, old tape of Pat McAfee doing football plays, like punting, and then, he didn't punt, right? He faked into a pass, and then him, blocking another guy. And I'm like, why? Like, I understand. Just before you go, well, he's from he played for the Colts. Look, okay, it's fine. It's fine. I understand that he plays for the Colts. I'm just wondering, why we're watching Pat McAfee plays on a WWE pay-per-view. That seemed a little off to me. It's not as if, it's not like Joe Montana passing to Jerry Rice on a 3rd and 20 for a touchdown reception, right? It's not like, we're not talking legendary plays here. We're not talking about things that, it's just like Pat McAfee. Like, I don't know. I just thought, I was sort of shaking my head, scratching my head going, what the fuck are we doing? Why are we doing it? And he's calling his own plays. I understand it's a goof. But nonetheless, I'm still asking myself, why is this happening? Wouldn't be the last time I asked myself this on this show. Anyway, the show officially starts when because I watched it on the Netflix, right? I know they had a pre-show. They had someone singing. Was it the national anthem or America the Beautiful? I don't know, because we don't get the pre-show in Canada. We just get the show itself. And that's kind of I'm kind of cool with that. That's fine. I'm not complaining. So I know like the show kind of started a little bit before, but the show officially started with Stephanie McMahon coming out in the Paul Levesque spot to drop a stat. What was it, like this is the third biggest stadium show, I understand WWE wants to wow everyone, and they especially want to wow their business partners, because I am of the belief in 2025 that the audience, the target audience that WWE caters to is their business partners, so you come out, you drop some. This is the third biggest non-WrestleMania stadium show in the history of WWE, something like that, right? And I'm like, oh man, we are stretching these records now. We're looking for anything at this point, and who could possibly care? Who could go like, wow, it is the third biggest? I'm like, okay, it was sure. And you're adding all of these little caveats. I think that's what it was, right? Like, it doesn't matter. I didn't make a note of it because it doesn't matter. I'm just, I don't know. It's the cold medication that's talking right now that's suddenly focused on this. And then we, okay, well, hang on. Hang on. I'm not going to go through this. I'm not going to go through this review in chronological order. What we're going to do is we're going to start with the lead. We're going to start with the men's rumble. We're going to start by talking about Jey Uso winning the men's Royal Rumble. Okay, we'll circle back to we'll talk about both Rumble matches, and then we'll do the undercard, right? Jey Uso eliminated John Cena at the very end. He was to win the Royal Rumble and head to WrestleMania. Now I know that a lot of the language that they use is they say they will main event WrestleMania, and that's what the ring announcer with the hair, Alicia Taylor, says. Alicia Taylor, isn't that her name? It's Alicia something, right? I think it's Taylor. Anyway, I remember her distinctly saying that whoever wins will main event WrestleMania, right? And I don't know in which world, what is I don't know if there is a timeline where Jey Uso main events WrestleMania, but I can't see being our reality being that timeline. Look, I know the win was a shock. It was a shock to me. It was a shock to everyone. Look, let's be honest. You're down to 2, and you got John Cena, retirement match guy, John Cena, going off into the sunset, at the end of the year. The big story with his last year being capturing his final world championship in WWE to make it up to 17, right? And everyone's like, oh, it's got to be John. He was my pick. He was my pick because it's the only really compelling story that you can tell, right? In these immediate circumstances. No, we decide that we're not doing that, at least not right now. That we're gonna swerve you. We're gonna pull an old Vince Russo here, and Jey Uso is going to be the guy who's going to win and is going to punch his clock. Punch his ticket. You don't punch a clock. You punch. Well, you can't, like if you work at a factory, you punch the clock. You don't punch your clock. You punch your ticket. You punch your ticket to WrestleMania. And then sometimes they say main event, and sometimes they say that they will headline, right? and they get a little wibbly wobbly with the language. But you had Michael Cole there at the end calling out and saying, finally, he's main event. He truly is main event. And I'll tell you why I don't see this happening. I don't see this happening because in this men's Royal Rumble match, at some point, you had the stars of this company all together, right? You had all the stars of this company that this company has, the big stars, all in the ring pretty much at the same time. You had Roman, you had Cena, you had Punk, and you had Seth Rollins, all guys that have been at the top. Look, let's throw in Drew McIntyre in here. And you're telling me that Jey Uso is going to be a guy here. That Jey Uso is going to crack that circle of guys and is suddenly going to be on that level. That doesn't make any sense to me. When all those guys are in the ring together and they're getting reactions and people are excited to see them and it's sustained and it's the minute. And then you've got Cody who wasn't even, you got Cody Rhodes who wasn't even in the match, but who still we must consider as having this big league top guy vibe to him as well. The thing here that's going to happen, let's say they push forward with this and they put him in a top tier program, he's going to be overshadowed by everyone else that I just named. Yeah, he'll even be overshadowed by Seth Rollins. They're going to eat that guy alive. All of those 4, 5, 6 guys that I just mentioned, they all have presence, charisma, real top guy feel that Jey Uso doesn't. Jey Uso is the definition of failing upward. This is a guy that 1 year ago, at this point right now even, less than a year ago, completely shit the bed in a one-on-one match, singles match with his brother at WrestleMania. A match that even the hardest of hard WWE fans rejected. Perhaps in a politeful way, but nonetheless did not try to sit around and convince us all that match was tremendous and was just no. And all throughout this singles push that he's had, and we can go back to the matches that he had with Roman when the bloodline was, well, it's always been that story, but when, Roman didn't trust Jey and Jey didn't trust Roman and, Oos, you got to join me. Oos. You remember that. And the encounters that he had with Roman, which specifically served to raise Jey, to elevate him, didn't work out because Jey Uso, when it counts, when it arrives time to perform, both in the ring and as a guy, as a top guy, he is incapable of doing it. He drops the ball every time. He never wins a big one. And he's always kept in these positions where they can always go to him and have a win and have someone win over him because it doesn't really matter. Because it's just Jey Uso and he will always be over because of his silly little entrance that people like to do. And they do their little TikToks, and their red notes. Are people doing that? Did they do the red notes? Or did they just, abandon red note now that TikTok is okay? Do people do their WWE red notes? Anyway, on the main event level, he never delivers. He never delivers. He's not a top guy. And it blows my mind where it's like people are saying, oh, he's being elevated. He's being, they're making another top guy. And I'm like, he's 40. And again, not that big a deal, but at 40, this is not where you start creating new guys to be at the top. when you're clearly at the tail end of a career where you're physically no longer in your prime, it's sort of time to, make sure that you hang on to your spot as opposed to being pushed even higher. That doesn't make sense. You've got guys on the roster right now who could be pushed to a high level, who could be pushed to a main event level, is what I'm trying to say. And they're not. They're still hanging around, middling in the mid card and doing mid card stuff. And these guys are younger and have a lot more promise and have the potential to have a longer spanning career. Whereas Jay is Jay. I don't know what to tell you. I can't see him being slated over Roman and Punk and Cody and Cena and Seth and Drew. I don't see it. It just I look. I understand why he got himself into this spot. He's got his little entrance. He's got his little thing that has people get excited, and that's what WWE fans love and want. And it's, again, proof that this company is not for me. And I'm not even mad. That's the thing, is like, I'm more like flabbergasted more than anything else. I'm stunned. I'm still reeling from yesterday, where I look at the result and I don't understand. It makes no sense to me that, that you are such a commodity, such an unproven commodity. No, let me say that again. You're such a proven commodity, but proven to not be at the top level that a lot of people say you are, but that you can still reach those heights just because you can get a stadium full of people really excited about your entrance, right? That's WWE, and that's what WWE fans want. And they talk about, oh, he deserves his time at the top. Again, deserves. It's like everyone gets a turn, right? Everyone gets a turn. Like I said, I'm not even upset because ultimately, you know what I think is going to happen? He's going to end up challenging Gunther. He's going to end up challenging for the secondary prize, for the consolation prize, and it's not going to main event anything. It's not going to main event night 1 or night 2, and yet we're still going to trick ourselves into believing that he's a main event guy, and that the consolation prize world title has some really deep meaning in the company, and everyone wants to have the undisputed title, whatever Cody's carrying right now. That's what people want, because that's what was made to feel special because of Roman's reign, essentially. I can just shrug at this. All I can do is shrug and go, okay, well, like, this really is not a company for me. And if a WWE fan is unable to see that when it comes to the wrestling, Jey Uso is unable to uncork it and deliver, then I don't know what to say. Enjoy your promotion, but it's not for me. I'm going to be very curious to see how they treat this moving forward, right? Because there's Elimination Chamber coming up, which I guess everyone now kind of expects John Cena to win, but we all expected John Cena, at least a lot of us, at least me, expected John Cena to win the Royal Rumble. Who knows what they might do? Maybe they are in a mood where they're just going to start shaking everything up, It's like suddenly Dominic Mysterio is going to be main eventing WrestleMania, and people will trick themselves into believing that this is good, that that's a good idea. Not for me. It's just, it's not for me. And, not saying that I'm pressing the eject button here on WWE and we're never going to talk about their PLEs ever again. But I'm at a stage right now where I'm legitimately thinking, where I'm wondering, is this really for me? And is there still room for me to put some thought into this in a company that doesn't put value in the things that I like about pro wrestling, which is oddly enough, the pro wrestling. Anyway, like I said earlier when we were starting off the review, I think that the men's Royal Rumble was more interesting than the women's. Again, not by a huge margin. It's just, a slighter, a slighter edge that it had. Just because more interesting things were happening. The I Show Speed spot, like I mentioned, I thought that was interesting. Good little bumps that he took there. I thought it was a good thing, where he eliminates Otis, right? And then he gets the shit speared out of him by Braun Breaker, who then eliminates him, but Otis catches him. And Otis then sack of shits him onto the commentary table. I thought it was a very, very good, very creative way of doing the elimination. I thought that was good. That was fun. But before that, you in this ring, in the ring, and here's something else. Here's something else that we have to mention. That we can tie in to the Jey Uso stuff. The most interesting parts of the men's Royal Rumble involved Braun Breaker and Jacob Fatu. These are two guys who are explosive, charismatic, especially in the case of Jacob, who was extremely charismatic, and who are over with this crowd. No pretends. No wacky entrances, no wacky one-word gimmicks, it's no, these guys are over. The people love the Jacob Fatu, and they really like Braun. And in this match, Braun and Jacob were getting really the most fun offense and a lot of fun spots. And they were grabbing my attention. I was like, all right, let's go. Let's keep them in here. They were doing eliminations. They weren't brought in like everyone else, pretty much brought into the Royal Rumble and sat off into a corner for 20 minutes to pad their stats, so that later we can say, oh, so and so stayed 32 minutes in the Royal Rumble, when there was 20 minutes where they sat in the corner doing jack shit. These guys were tremendous, right? And in the case of okay, I've said it once, but I want to say it again because I think it bears repeating. Going up to main roster was the best thing for Braun Breaker to do. Something clicked. It all came together. I don't know exactly how to, what magical fairy dust that was sprinkled over him to make things all work and click once on outside of NXT. But he's been tremendous. And the future is much brighter for him now that he's shaken away the NXT stuff. It's tremendous. Jacob Fatu, look, everyone saw it with the Solo Sikoa angle that he outshined everyone else in that Timu Bloodline stuff, especially Solo, who was the guy they were patterning off of Roman, right? Adopting his mannerisms, his way of speaking, and Solo could never get it across because he doesn't have the chops. He's not that good. He's kind of flat. And then you have Jacob, who's dynamic and electric and fresh, and he's got this great vibe about him. You put him in the ring, you let him do his thing. You have to keep Jacob Fatu as far away from Jey Uso as possible. Because Jacob Fatu will absolutely outshine Jey Uso. And WWE has even figured it out because they had Roman and Jacob do a face-to-face, stare down. Well, it wasn't face-to-face, but they did a stare down in the ring. So they even understand it. They're like, and Jacob stands across from Roman and he doesn't feel like a little bro. Does he feel as big as Roman? No. But he doesn't feel like a little bro. He doesn't feel like a cuz. He doesn't feel like an oos. And that's tremendous. And of course, these guys don't last to the end, right? Of course, these guys get eliminated. The most interesting part of the Rumble. But it makes the Jey Uso decision all the more confusing when you see these guys and then Jay and you're like, what's all right, whatever, I guess. What else did I know? Let me pull up what other notes did I take here? Yeah, they even had Braun Breaker spear Roman, right? Sure, Roman eliminated him, but they even let Braun get some proper offense on Roman. So, it's good stuff. Andrade has, I made this note here. He has been here for a year. How green is the grass over here, Andrade? Joe Hendry showed up. Say his name. That's the thing, right? He's like Candyman. He's like Candyman. You say his name 3 times fast in a mirror, and then a swarm of bees show up, and then you get Joe Hendry doing his hand claps. Yeah, he showed up. He did some very basic moves, but again, Joe Hendry is an extremely mid wrestler. Comes in as the Impact World Champion on top of that. Oh, and he gets eliminated by Roman Reigns. Just before the other stars arrive, just before, Cena arrives and Punk and Seth, Roman gets rid of Joe Hendry, right? Just gets yoinked. Was he in the Royal Rumble for more than 3 minutes? I don't think so. Do we have this kind of stat on the cage match? We don't have the times on cage match. That's a shame. Yeah, this was before Roman got speared by Braun. He tosses Joe Hendry and then shortly thereafter he eliminates Braun, but whatever. It's Joe. Here's the thing though. This is your world champion, right? This is your world champion, and he was completely geeked here. He was absolutely 100% geeked because Roman Reigns, he's still the WWE. He's the representative. He's the guy that is most highly associated with the brand right now, as far as, full-time wrestlers go. He said no, hit the bricks, Junior. Go back to your Bush League. Go back to fighting the kids in developmental. You don't belong on this big stage. That's the message, right? That's the message. The message is WWE to TNA fans, right? Hey, just remember, we're in charge. We don't care about your champion or your championship titles. We are the people in charge. Just keep that in mind. Anywho, what else did I write down here? Yeah, I guess after that we sort of moved on to. Did I mention that Rey Mysterio and Penta started off the? I don't think I did. I'm really curious to see how far this Penta push is going to go. I don't know how far this is going to go. I was at the very least expecting. I don't know what the Wyatt 6 gimmick is about anymore. I know what it is. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, I was at the very least expecting that one of the Wyatt 6 was going to show up. Now, did they not show up because in storyline they're dead? They've been kidnapped. It could be some kind of, they're on retreat. It could be some kind of goofball reason, right? But they weren't here. I have not seen the Wyatt 6. As you know, I don't watch Raw or SmackDown or NXT on a regular basis. I watch the PLEs, the non-Saudi shows. That's what I watch. The rest is completely out of mind for me. Out of sight, out of mind. So I have not seen, outside of that one time, was it their debut where they murdered everyone? Outside of that one time, I have not seen a single member of the Wyatt 6 do anything in WWE. I have not seen a single one of them. So at the Rumble, I was like, well, maybe they'll have, the Uncle Howdy guy. Maybe they'll have, what's his name? A serial murder guy, or John Gacy, Joe Gacy. John Gacy's an actual serial killer. Joe Gacy. Maybe they'll have his character do a thing, but no, like these people do jack shit. I don't know what, it's all hype. And I'm pretty sure I said that. Back when we were setting everything up, when the Wyatt Six were getting together and they were doing the QR codes and whatnot. I'm pretty sure I prophesized that they're gonna hype the shit out of it, because WWE is very good at that, and they're gonna market it and they're gonna get people really excited, but then they won't be able to do anything proper. They won't know what to do with them, because it's gonna be so far outside of everything within the company that it's gonna look so, gauche to just try to ham fist them into regular pro wrestling storylines. It just doesn't work. So honestly, I was at least expecting one of them. I was like, there's got to be at least the Uncle Howdy, right? At the very least. But no, we got no one. But nonetheless, we did get all the stars coming in at this point. Drew comes out before, and then in succession, right? It's Cena, Punk, and Rollins, right? Braun Strowman eliminates Jacob Fatu. I didn't mention this though. Braun Strowman, who I watched the angle because a lot of people were talking a lot of good things about it. So I watched the angle that Jacob Fatu and Braun Strowman did at Saturday night's main event, which I thought was really good. And I thought it was very ballsy. And, it helped establish Fatu as a badass. And I watched it and I was like, that's awesome. And then Braun Strowman comes in and he eliminates Jacob Fatu. And I'm like, okay, of course, we got a 50-50 everything, right? Like, we can't put a guy over. It has to always be fucking 50-50. I don't know. I think that kind of stunk. I don't know why I hesitated there. And then that's it. Then there's a lot of interaction between the big stars, between Cena and Punk and Seth and Roman. There's some interactions, even down to Seth and Roman having a stare down, right? And, commentary shuts up when this happens. They stop talking because they want the crowd swell of excitement. They want the people excited at the idea of, oh, former friends, the Shield. There's a lot of history. There's a lot of tension, right? And the crowd doesn't care. Like, the crowd is murmuring the whole way through. Even at some point, you hear people singing Seth's song, but they're not popping because of the Shield history. They're not popping for any of that. They're sitting on their hands. And Roman and Seth are sort of angling and staring at each other, and then they start jaw-jacking to sort of get a reaction, but the reaction they got was not the reaction they were expecting, which again lends credence to my theory that the modern WWE fan is fresh. It's a new fan. They've been watching this for 2 years. And the fans that used to be like pro wrestling fans watching WWE are just not there, or they're in an extreme minority. Because the fans today have no idea, clearly, of the Shield and Seth turning on Roman and the authority stuff. They have no clue. Because otherwise they would have got excited about this. It's kind of like CM Punk, right? I think now WWE fans sort of see CM Punk as, oh, well, WWE's telling me he's a big time guy and we stole him from AEW. So, he's cool and we're going to cheer for him. But they don't know the story. They don't know the history of CM Punk. They might have heard of the pipe bomb, but they don't know what it was, what it meant, what it represented. They definitely don't know about Punk and Cena. They don't know about, the lawsuits. They don't know about any of this. And we, because CM Punk tries to do little insider references to stuff that happened and no one really reacts except for a couple of nerds in the audience. But these are all new fans, not new wrestling fans, new WWE fans. That's the difference. So, all of this adds credence to my belief here. So eventually, Punk, Roman, Seth, they all get eliminated. They all fight on the floor. They, I guess they're setting something up for WrestleMania. Probably, I guess. I couldn't tell you. Logan Paul also came in and he got the Kofi Kingston spot. He got to do something wacky where he jumped on commentary and then jumped back without being eliminated and jumped across onto the unforgiving steel stairs. Anyway, and then we get to the final where everyone is sort of like, all right. And I'm posting on Blue Sky. Well, we all know what's happening. We all know what's next. Everyone's like, John Cena's going to win. But nope. When we've been over this, we don't have to rehash it. Kofi Kingston is not Kofi Kingston. So, that leads us to John Cena and Jey Uso, and Jey Uso wins. And we've already talked about that. So there you go. Like, again, moderately more interesting than the Women's Royal Rumble, but, not a good Royal Rumble match in any stretch of the imagination. Anyway, over to the Women's Royal Rumble. Well, Charlotte Flair wins. Lol. I think that's the thing we have to do now. Chatting with folks in my Discord, and they were like, oh, well, some of them were like, I don't think Charlotte's winning this. What do you do with Charlotte? I saw, an argument where it's like, well, Charlotte was a Vince project and, Triple H can do whatever he wants. And I'm like, does he really? Because there's a lot of things that Triple H does which emulate Vince quite a bit, actually. So you think Charlotte Flair is going to come back, get some hype, and come back to the Royal Rumble to feud with Lyra Valkyria? No, she's not. The answer is no. And it was a pretty obvious finish too, right? Who was left at the end? Yeah, like the final four were Nia Jax, Charlotte Flair, Roxanne Perez, and Nikki Bella. And you look at that final four and you're like, well, Charlotte's winning. What are we talking about? Like, there's no one else here that's coming in for a big WrestleMania spot other than Charlotte Flair. You got to be real here. And at least on this one, I was right. At least I didn't screw up that on that one, right? Yeah, I mean, it's always been about Charlotte. The only time that it wasn't about Charlotte was when Becky got organically over, and there was just no denying it. And it pissed off Vince. It pissed off Vince to the point that he made that WrestleMania main event a triple threat. He couldn't keep Charlotte out of it, and there you go. Because that was the plan. That was his plan. That's probably what Charlotte was promised, and that's where we're at. This is where we're at. And she coming back with the vignettes and everything, and you're thinking, what is WWE going to do with her? That was pretty clear. It was pretty clear to me. There wasn't much of a guessing game here. So a lot of people seem to think that Charlotte is going to be challenging for the WWE Women's Championship, which is held by Tiffany Stratton, because they're both SmackDown women, right? As far as I know, Charlotte is on SmackDown. But I wouldn't put it past anyone to have Charlotte go after Rhea once again and have Charlotte get her win back, which is also very important to the Charlotte Flair presentation. I wouldn't put it above anyone to come up with that one. You know what's officially become a pet peeve for me, and it was the same thing in the men's Rumble as well. The number 1 and 2 spots are meaningless now. They don't feel like dangerous spots anymore because every year there's someone breaking a new record, a new Iron Man or Iron Woman record, right? Or at least in the case of the women, right? I feel like every year this has happened. And now like Roxanne Perez is like, you know, she stayed the longest or she's right up there or something. And I'm like, who cares? Like, it doesn't matter anymore. Like the number 1 and 2 spots are like guaranteed that one of them is going to be the Iron person, the Iron Man, the Iron Woman. Like it, you know, there's no drama to it anymore. It's just like something, it's literally, well, we'll give you this because you're not going to win, but you know, you'll have this stat that we can play off of. And then, you know, you have to wonder, what did Roxanne Perez do in this match? Well, she did jack shit. She spent the majority of her, what was it, like 66 minutes or something like that? She spent the majority of her time doing nothing in this match. Just lying around, just trying to throw someone off the top rope. And it's really annoying now. It's not even fun. It's not even cute. Now it's more like, oh, well, number 1 and 2 are practically like, they're safe. They're safe spots now. Like at some point in this match, I think there was 16 people in the Women's Royal Rumble at once. And not that you have to eliminate people quite a bit. That's not necessarily what I'm saying, to always keep it like at 4 or 5 people. No, you want a bit of chaos. But when you have 16 people and nothing is happening, there's a problem. Then you can start pruning. You should be able to toss people out right and left and not wait for Nia Jax to come in and eliminate a bunch of people at once. Let's talk about the Nia Jax spot, which was awful. So I'm watching the match, and all of a sudden, you've got all sorts of women that are piling up on top of each other on the ring apron, right? They're all going over the top rope and then like hanging on and piling up on each other. And not geeks. You know, you got Io Shirai, Bianca Belair, Trish Stratus, Liv Morgan, Naomi. You know, they're all like piled up on one another. And I'm like, what are they doing? What the hell are they doing? And the idea of a mass elimination doesn't even ring true to me because it all looks so goofy and stupid. Like just what they're doing. I'm like, what are they doing? So it doesn't even cross my mind that they're like, oh, they're all going to get eliminated at once. But then Nia Jax runs the ropes and runs right into them and they all fall down. I'm like, what the fuck? And realistically, she only landed on 2 women, right? She only hit like 2 women. It was such a bad spot, and including Bianca Belair. Here's another something that I harp on quite a bit, but Bianca Belair, man, what are we even doing with her anymore? It doesn't make sense. I don't know what we're doing with Bianca Belair. I don't know. I don't get it. You know, you can have all of your tinfoil theories. You know, you can do the memes, whatever you want to try and explain it, make sense of it, but there's no sense to it. A woman who was legitimate, who's a legitimate great athlete, one of their only true performance center success stories, someone who comes out of that and is a great pro wrestler, who has the charisma, the star power, and they don't know what to do with her. And they're having her do goofy spots like this. Doesn't even get a proper elimination. I hate this shit. I hate this shit so much. A couple of years ago, she was undeniable. It's not even a question of, oh, she deserves better. She is a star in this division. Like, look at the composition of this Women's Royal Rumble, okay? True star power in this division is sorely missing. That's why Charlotte Flair comes out and she looks and feels like $1 million because she's a star. If Becky Lynch had showed up, that would have been the same thing. Bayley doesn't feel it anymore. Bianca, that's a whole other 9 yards. I don't understand what they're doing here. Yeah. Rhea wasn't here. There's another big star. Rhea wasn't in there because she was a champ. She's a champion, of course. Anyway, Alexa Bliss, the true surprise of the night, and the biggest pop of the entire show. Like, they didn't have to, punch in the cheers. They didn't have to do any of that. Alexa Bliss, unquestionably the biggest surprise. With the news that had been leaked by WWE to the dirt sheet saying, oh, well, there's a contract dispute, makes you wonder, but not a discussion for today right now. But it does make you wonder, how much WWE is manipulating the dirt sheets to get stories across that will eventually turn against them, and people will say they're unreliable. Yet WWE is feeding these stories. Anyway, look, I'm not going any further. Not for this discussion, but it makes you think. It makes you think. But good for Alexa. She unquestionably had the biggest reaction of the entire show. People were excited for her to be back. I, for one, really, it's neither here nor there with me when it comes to Alexa, but I can appreciate that people appreciated her return. Maxine Dupree is afraid of wrestlers. I don't understand what this thing is. I don't understand. She comes to the ring. She has Shayna Baszler's group that's there, and she's afraid. What the fuck are we doing? I don't understand the Maxine Dupree thing, and I don't care to understand. Now people are going nuts because she can do suplexes. Oh my God, look how great she is. She's fucking doing suplexes. And suddenly I should think that she's like, that she's something special. I can't stand her. Just a complete waste of space. Jordan Grace showed up as well. A lot of people seem to think that this was a surprise, but I don't know how. And yeah, I mean, it is what it is. Roxanne Perez came in number 3, stayed to the very end, and then got duly eliminated by Charlotte Flair. I didn't think it was very good. I really didn't think it was very good. A lot of these women don't get reactions. Lyra Valkyria didn't get any reaction. I think, Stephanie Vaquer didn't get any reaction. But they always had the cheer button ready. Julia came out and they forgot to push the heat button. They forgot to give her the canned heat. So her entrance was just dry as dirt. Like, no one knew who this woman was. They're WWE fans. Nikki Bella, like, again, she came in at 30. Was it even that much of a surprise? Because she had been hinting at returning. I don't know. So that was the Women's Royal Rumble. It is what it was. It wasn't great, but hey, it's the Royal Rumble. Then we had 2 other matches. We had DIY versus the Motor City Machine Guns for one pair of their tag titles. I don't know which one. Which one was it? It doesn't matter. Which one? No, let's do it properly for the record here. It was for the WWE tag team titles. And DIY retained in an extremely disappointing match. That's what I said at the start. This is a match that I thought that had all the potential to be really, really good, great even, blow the roof off the place. 2 great tag teams, 4 great wrestlers, just pros, veterans. It was all kind of disjointed. There was no heat. I didn't think it was particularly good. I didn't even think it was all that great. There were some cool combos, but I didn't think we were there. I gave it 2 3/4 stars. I didn't think it was terrible, but I really was expecting something more from these 4 guys. Like I don't know why anyone, like, I saw so much talk about this, and I myself was like, this has the potential to really be great. But I don't know if these guys want to have great matches. I don't know if they can have great matches. I don't know if they're instructed to not have great matches, but whatever they delivered here was just, by the book. But even there, it little sloppy at times. Wasn't great. Just wasn't great. 2 3/4 stars. And then Cody Rhodes successfully retained the WWE Undisputed title by defeating Kevin Owens in a ladder match. The sin of this match is that it was boring. That was the main issue. We had a 25-minute match, which, and again, not unlike the tag team championship match, but for all intents and purposes, should have rocked the house. This should have been Owens and Rhodes, who are two guys who love pro wrestling, have it in their bones, understand what it takes for some good pro wrestling. Like, these guys are going to tear it up. But no. There was none of that happened. Instead, we got this thing that was plodding and weird and just didn't have any action. I was just sitting around and they were doing stuff and it was just wanting to throw each other into ladders. And I thought that these guys were savvy enough to work around the ladders as opposed to work into the ladders. And it was just like so boring. It was dull. It was just dull up until we got to the finish. The finish was tremendous, right? Cody throws Kevin Owens into a post. He starts bleeding. They fight a little more, and then he drives him. He does a contraption, a Tinker Toy thing with the ladders on commentary, and he effectively kills Kevin Owens there, right? Sami Zayn is out there and whatnot, and I'm like, okay, well, this is, this feud is done, right? There's nothing else to do to move forward. This feud is kaput. It's finito, right? And it finishes on such a weird note. That's the thing. It's like, it just finishes on a weird note. And it's a shame. It's a shame because this is another match where these two prime wrestling lovers should have had the opportunity to tell Paul, look, let us steal the show. Let us steal the show. Instead, they lobbied to get some juice because Kevin Owens bladed. That's what they lobbied for. Very, very, very ordinary. Way too long and boring. Yeah, there's a couple of good bumps, but that's about it. That's about it. 2.5 stars. Not helping Cody Rhodes' case as having a great reign as undisputed champion. Not having a great reign, if you ask me. And again, topic for another conversation. Topic for another time. Because as it stands right now, we're going to wrap up the review of the Royal Rumble 2025. Not a good show. Nothing of interest. No real surprises. Nothing exciting. Kind of like the hallmark of Triple H pay-per-views, PLEs in general, regardless. So I guess that follows the beat. I guess that follows the aesthetic. But for the rest of us, yeah, there ain't much meat. There ain't much meat on them bones these days. And that about wraps it up for another edition of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show. Thank you all very much for joining me today. If you enjoyed, once again, a quick reminder, a like on YouTube, a 5-star review, a 5-star rating, anything that you can 5-star or like or follow or whatever you can. That shows some love and it's tremendous and does help grow. So I would appreciate it and would make my heart all fuzzy, wuzzy kind of thing. I will be back on Thursday for another AEW Dynamite review. And on the YouTube channel, in case you're watching this specifically on your podcast application, over on the YouTube channel at the end of this week, I will be starting a new monthly series where I break down the best wrestling matches of the previous month. So I'm going to have the very first installment, Ergo, breaking down the best matches of January 2025. New little feature, cool little feature. Hope you join us for that, and we'll be exclusively on the YouTube channel. So take a minute out of your day to come check it out. That's later on in the week, though, probably Friday, something to that effect. Look, life and stuff happens, and I thought I was going to say something really inspiring and wise, but turns out I am neither am I going to say something inspiring and wise, neither am I inspiring or wise. So thank you all again for joining me today. Go watch Randy Orton and get back to me, and I'll see you next time.